and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about what real leadership looks like because if you are putting out fires all day, stuck in that day to day operational stuff, hoping that someone notices how hard you're working, you're not alone. But that kind of leadership won't get you a seat at the table. It doesn't get you seen as a true sparring partner, or a true business partner, or even as that strategic partner. So, for April 1st, I wanted to share 4 specific things that I do, but also a lot of my clients do in order to shift the gears from being in the doing. So these are lots of things that I have done in the past in my 20 years in corporate, and that I know all of the women that I work with, they are doing this in their current corporate roles. And it is really shifting the gear from being seen as a fixer, the one that solves all the problems and clean up all the messes, to being seen as the strategic partner that they are. So let's get into it. The first one, I want you to start finding time in your calendar. Yes, I can see and I almost hear the eye rolls already. Like, Kim, I have too much going on. How am I going to find more time? Here's the thing. I want you to take this time, even if it's just 30 minutes in a week. Yes, I'm not asking for a lot, but build in CEO thinking times. So this is where really when what I found, and this is a realization I had yesterday talking with a mentor of mine of like how many women we have, and I've done this myself, right? We have grown into the role that we are. You might have been promoted, or you're already in that leadership role for a while, and you're in the doing. You're spending all of your time fixing the problems that come up, the next crisis that shows up. Somebody walked into your office like, oh my God, this is going wrong. Like, how, like, this needs to get fixed. So you're busy. I get it. But what you're not doing is steering. You're not setting the direction. And for a lot of women, in the very beginning of our careers, of course, we are very responsible for a specific task or outcome. And that means doing that gets you recognition. So the better you do that, the more recognition you receive. Except now, being in leadership, your output does not automatically get linked to being recognized for what you're doing, because now you're much more about ensuring that everybody else is doing their work, but how are you taking credit for that, or how is your leadership showing up for that? So here's what I do. And part of this is to ensure that I don't get stuck in the weeds, and my clients as well, is we schedule uninterrupted thinking time every week to look at what's the big picture. So where are we going this week? What needs to be changed structurally? So think about it in a sense of like, oh, okay, hey, I see that this is also the time where you can like, I see we have this crisis coming up. This issue keeps popping up every single week or every single month. How do I structurally change that problem rather than that I constantly just address it? So think of it in this way: becoming that strategic partner, being seen as a strategic partner or strategic leader, you need to prioritize the direction, not just the amount of output that's happening within your team and within your role. So that is step number 1, is build in CEO thinking time. Even just 30 minutes is going to be enough. Number 2, we're going to choose one of those processes and solve it at the root. So again, if you're stuck firefighting all day, every day, and there's a lot of women that I speak to that are like, I am so busy just trying to keep us operationally afloat and keeping my team from being too overworked, then here's the question that I have for you. If you could look at one of those recurring issues that keep coming up, that fire you have to put out almost every single month or every single week, let's take a look at that. And rather than you jumping in to fix it operationally, how about you start asking the questions like, why does this keep happening? What is the structural change that I can make that would eliminate this for good? So this has, the band-aid versus the surgery kind of concept. So so far you've been putting a band-aid on every single time it shows up, like, oh, That's too bad. It happened again. I'll just put another band-aid on that. Except the next week, the next month, it shows up again. And you're just thinking like, oh, here we go again. All right. So we got to figure out what the size of the band-aid is this time. Like, how often does this band-aid need to be changed, et cetera, et cetera. Rather than going like, hey, this is a structural problem. Let's fix it. So again, to position yourself in April, one of those actions that you can do to take to position yourself as that strategic leader and that strategic partner is just choose a process. One of them. It doesn't have to be all of them. It doesn't have to be the biggest one, but solve one of those process problems or these operational headaches that you keep having on the regular. Solve that at the root, not just putting a band-aid on every time and just, oh, thank God, we've solved it for now, knowing it's going to come back. Number 3. So again, we're talking about 4 different shifts that you can make, especially if you want to be seen as that strategic partner. You want to start empowering your team. So here's what you get to do. Instead of jumping in every time, or every time a team leader or team member comes to you like, hey, here's something, like, and just kind of throws it over the fence for you to pick up and do, you can push it back and say, hey, this is something that you need to solve, and I get involved when it's at this and this point. So I want you to start looking at the different aspects that you're doing in your day and thinking like, can I start assigning this and having someone in my team lead it, rather than me being the one that has to fix this every time? Because what is happening then otherwise is that you are being the bottleneck for the results, for the outcomes that are possible. So what would happen if you jumped out of the way and started looking at a team member and assigning them and holding them accountable and responsible for solving that crisis? Right? Or solving the issue, or solving the question they come to. Because realistically, not every question that a team member brings to you needs you to solve it. It is about, can you lead that person in the direction that they need to go in order to find their own solution, to complete the task on their own? This again doesn't mean you need to let them go completely. It just means you're holding them accountable for what they need to do. And here's the thing, if you're really pressed for time, this is a really great place to start, because if you can start shifting more things back to your team, it's going to free up that time for that first one, the suggestion, the first shift of building in CEO thinking time. And it's going to allow you additional time to build more influence and build more strategic relationships within your organization and externally, which is a totally different training. So if you're finding yourself asking the question, because I know this is what my clients have oftentimes struggle with, is like, where do I even start? Now, I've got something that is perfectly suited for this, and I call this, it's created, I've created it, and it's called the Influence Productivity Toolkit. Now, this toolkit is not just a nice to-do list that you get to manage and check off, although you can. What it does, this toolkit, is all about ensuring that you have the focus on the right tasks. So if you're asking yourself, I don't even know what tasks I should be delegating to my team, or which tasks I should assign and let them lead, then this Influence Productivity Toolkit, what it does is based off of different criteria, and that includes the goals and the visibility that it creates, and also the urgency and the amount of impact. It'll tell you or help you to focus on, hey, these are tasks that I can really shift to my team versus these are tasks that I should do myself. So if you're interested in the toolkit, then just DM me toolkit and I'll share the link with you so you can grab that as well. So number 4, let's go into the fourth one. The fourth one is all around clarifying your own strategic vision and sharing it publicly. As one of my clients shared, she realized she was doing she was in a director's role, and she was creating this great strategy and this great strategy roadmap, and everything was like, she's like, when we can implement this, we are going to absolutely crush all our goals. Except our CEO, he just kept coming in with new ideas every time. And it wasn't until we were talking through this that she all of a sudden realized, and I said to her, I'm like, but he doesn't know what you're working on. Like, you have a great vision, you've got a great strategic mind, but you're not sharing it beyond you having it on your computer. And it's like, if people don't know what your strategic vision is, they're going to fill it in with something else. They're going to fill it in for themselves. So this is where, again, if you do number one, right, creating that CEO time for yourself, like max, like even if it's just 30 minutes every week, you have the ability then to clarify and create your own strategic vision. And then you can start really talking about, here's where my team is going, not just about what they're doing, right? But where they are going. What are the outcomes you're leading towards? How does your department contribute with your strategy? How does that contribute into the business goals of the organization? How does your strategic vision for your department, for your team, for your responsibility area, how does that lead again into the business goals of the organization? Because once you are able to make that translation, people are going to see you differently. Your leaders are going to see you differently. Your management team, your fellow colleagues in your management team are going to see you differently. And what you start to see is you get to start becoming a part of key conversations very quickly, because people are like, hey, but you've got a strategic vision. You have an idea of where you're going. So I want to get, either they want to get on board with that vision with you, or they want to see, like, how can you help them with fitting their vision also into the organization. So when it is time, or when you're looking to start making that shift from being the firefighter, doing all the things, cleaning up all the messes, to really becoming a strategic partner. Again, these are the 4 shifts that you can make already right now in April, because I'm going to encourage you here. If you're doing the same thing in the last quarter, in quarter 1 of 2025, oh, wow, we've already passed the first quarter. If you don't do anything different, what makes you think this quarter is going to change at all? So here are the 4 things I want you to think about again, right? 4 shifts. Build in your CEO thinking time, even if it's just 30 minutes. I want you to choose one of those processes that is causing an issue on like a recurring fire or a recurring crisis, and ask, okay, what's happening? How do we structurally solve this? Number 3, you want to empower your team, or even just one team member, to own a specific issue or crisis that normally you're the one fixing. And number 4, clarify and share publicly your strategic vision. So if you end up doing these 3 things, at least you will start to be able to shift how you are perceived within your organization. So if you find yourself still constantly putting out fires and still trying to figure it on your own, because honestly, I know too many women who are trying, and I was one of them in the past. I was like, it just must be me. I, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, or maybe like it must be easier for everybody else. So I must be the problem. Well, it wasn't that I was the problem. I just didn't have the right tools or the support to make the shifts that I needed to do. So again, if you're finding yourself constantly putting out fires and trying to figure it all out all on your own, because that's what you think is expected, it's no wonder that it feels extremely heavy, exhausting, and just like, am I really capable? Am I capable of this? Is this the right role for me, or am I just in the wrong place? Here's the thing though, leadership, especially as a woman in leadership, and I know the experience firsthand of being that only woman at the table, being the only woman in the room, of being the one that is asked to be taking notes or grabbing me the coffee, because, yeah, you must be the assistant versus you're the leader, right? It can be very lonely, but it doesn't have to be lonely even when you're the only woman in the room. Because this is the best part. Inside my leadership accelerator, not only do you get to discover how to really step into being that strategic partner and claiming your seat at the table, but you get to be we also dive in deep into how do I create the visibility that I want to make in order to get results, get the recognition, get the respect, get the promotions. Again, just being invited to take not only just to listen in and execute the decisions that are being made, but you're getting invited to the table to make the decisions about the strategy and what's going to happen. And just as a highlight for this month, like every month within the Leadership Accelerator, I do a training, and this month we're talking all about visibility power moves. So there really isn't a better time than right now to enroll in the Leadership Accelerator because it is going to lead you to having a totally different outcome in Q2 than you've had in Q1. So if you're still spinning your wheels and thinking like, "Oh, I really want something to change," but you don't know what? Let's have a conversation. DM me visibility and I will send you a link and we can book a strategy call that we can go through and see where are you getting stuck and what it would be your next best move forward. All right. Thank you so much for listening and following in. And again, just to share those 4 shifts. 1, build in CEO thinking time. 2, solve one structural process problem this month. 3, empower one of your team members to solve an issue that you normally fix. And 4, clarify your strategic vision and share it publicly. And once you start doing these 4 shifts, you make these 4 changes, take these 4 steps, however you want to phrase it, but doing these 4 things is going to lead to a really big shift in how you are perceived within your environment and in your organization. And it is going to shift you into the mode of being seen as a strategic partner, which when you become seen as a strategic partner, so many opportunities then open up for you. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Any questions, of course, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And again, if you're ready to not do this, if you're ready to do this together and to have a very supportive group of women leaders that is going to cheer you on, then I want you to DM me visibility and we'll get you started into the Leadership Accelerator. All right.